And if you look at the pictures, you can see her. They actually used to let her drop in on them. I see all the photos. And this little cute beach girl had a dad who was a writer, if you don't know the story. But then already he wrote the story in 1957 that became a New York Times bestseller called Gidget. It was in the top 10 along with Jack Kerouac's On the Road. If you can believe that, it was in the top 10 of the New York Times bestsellers. Of course, that turned into Hollywood, and you had people like Sally Field playing her, and she's still actively involved. If you happen to be up in Malibu on a Tuesday or Thursday night, I think, she might seat you at Duke's. And I've had the pleasure of that. And I do find it funny sometimes, because I've been there, that when she seats some people, they have absolutely no idea who this cute little girl is that I call the fairy godmother of our culture, is seating them. And it's my great honor to induct Kathy Gidget Koenig.
Remember, my name's Gidget. I have to be out here. Girl midget. You know, keep company with those people that make you feel better. And PT mentioned the number 18. I actually quit surfing when I was 18, and I think that was about 1960. And the company that makes me feel better is the surf community that has welcomed me back. I learned how to, it was difficult. Steve Walden and Bear Wozniak about 10 years ago took me up to Malibu, and James O'Mahony, and they said, get back in the water. And I tried, and I can stand up on a baby wave at First Point at Malibu, but you know, my motto is, once a surfer, always a surfer. And you talk about talk story. I talked story to my dad, Frederick. And my dad, in 3 weeks, wrote a book called Gidget. You know, it's kind of, the rest is history. The book in the 50s and 60s and early 70s sold 3 million copies. And we got the book out again. But it's really the canon of the surf people. There's a small group of people, and they welcome me back. And I do go out and do a lot of speaking engagements, and I say that this is my many happy longboard memory talk, and I dedicate it, you know, to my father for one thing, because I honor my father. I didn't appreciate what a great story he wrote, and then to all the surfers that I love and all the new ones that I've met. And of course, Linda's over there. She surfed in Gidget Goes Hawaiian. She did all the surfing scenes. Jericho, everywhere I go, Jericho's with me, and I just love, I want to embrace the surfing community, so I want to thank you very much for giving me this honor, and PT has really welcomed me back in the surf community. Just look on Facebook.
We never let you leave.
Thank you. Thank you, Huntington Beach, and I love the museum here, and aloha.
It's great when inductees are as small as me. Usually they're all towering over me. So that brings us to, if we talk about Gidget being an icon, the next guy that I'm going to bring up here is clearly an icon. You know, for the young people out there that, you know, think that celebrity rock and roll musicians like Eddie Vedder and Brandon Boyd and Jackson Browne that go surfing, this was the original, Dick Dale. This guy, oh, we got a little music there. So I had to bring this today because this is Dick Dale, back in the 60s. Surfer's Choice. You know, he was the real deal. He wasn't like the Beach Boys. They didn't surf. Only Dennis surfed. Dick was the one that surfed. He was telling me stories last night. I was hanging out with Dick down at the Hilton with Tom Curran, who was so honored to meet Dick Dale. And Tom, being the musician he is, he knew everything about the way Dick plays guitar. And they started talking story about, you know, musicians and music. And Dick was telling about how that he wanted to play guitar like he felt when he went surfing. And that's what these albums were about, Surfer's Choice, King of the Surf Guitar. And it is really a great honor because Dick is the first musician to be inducted into the Surfing Walk of Fame. And I think that is really a statement in itself. We talk about icons, you know, in our sport. But this guy, to me, is like what Jimi Hendrix is to rock and roll. He was to playing surf guitar. I recently had the chance to go see him and his son play at the Coach House. And if you have a chance to see Dick Dale play, and you haven't, he's playing on the 13th at the Coach House again. And I'm telling you right now, you want to have seats at that gig. Because I went to the last one, it was one of the best nights of music that I've ever been to in my life. Because you're seeing somebody like Tina Turner, Mick Jagger. That's the class of this guy. And it's made great honor to bring Dick Dale up to the stage for Surf Culture.
Hi, everybody. The last time I seen all you guys was at the 4th of July parade, and you were running out to the car and bringing your little ones in your arms, and we were doing high fives, and it was really bitchy. Oh, excuse me. Well, that's a surfing term. And you want to talk about, you know, the fella who we just lost, who will always be special to us. And you said he'd come down on his motorcycle. Well, I did that I came to California in 1954. In 1955, my buddy Ray and I, and he's out there in the audience, we came down. Ray said, let's go down to the beach and look at all the gals on a motorcycle. So I rode down on my 1941 Harley Davidson Flathead, and they only built about 1,200 of them, and it's on my shirt. And then we got kicked out, and then we came back again in a car, and got kicked out again. But no, they said we couldn't sleep in the car, and you know it was cold, and the cop was banging on the window, and he says, roll the window down. And he says, no, it's cold. And so he goes, well, you can't sleep out in the street. He goes, go in the parking lot. And so we went in the parking lot, and then we came back. And then before you know it, there was a family called the Majors, and Mike Major. And right on that corner where the Dukes are, the Dukes was a roller skating rink. And that's where I used to play my guitar. And I was always late because I was always surfing. And you're talking about banging the pilings.
Pavilion.
Yeah, that's right, the pavilion. You're older than me then. I'm older than you. I'm 74, pal. But yeah, well, anyway, I should. But the thing is, yeah, how many muscles would leave their impressions in our body? That was on the, yeah, they were the barnacles, but to me they were big, fat, open muscles with sharpness.
Oh, biggest on the Como Coast.
Yeah, bigger than the Kona Coast. That's what it is. But anyhow, I'll get off real quick. The thing is that we came down and we started playing music in a place called the Rendezvous Ballroom. And my first board was a Joe Quigg back in 1955. If anybody could ever remember that name, you older surfers, Joe Quigg board. And then Kobe made me my first board in the skate. We call them skates, not fins. We called them skates. And had DD in it. It was really bitchin', you know. It's cool. You know? Bitchin' means good. It's not a swear word. It means good. So I had my, and that's the one that was on this picture that he showed you. That was taken 7:30 in the morning under the pier in San Clemente, because when you get blown out here, we'd go down south and keep following it. You know, it was glacier, you know, Brook Street down there, down in Laguna. But anyway, that was the story of my life, and then we just kept on going. There was so much to talk about history, and it's just been going and going and going. And Huntington has always been, guess what? My lucky number was 13. And everything in my life has been 13. My son Jimmy was born on the 13th, and I used to live right down the street on 13th Street. So there's just so much to say, but surfing to me is one of the coagulants that I feel that we should have together for our children to keep them from doing graffiti on the walls. If they get into surfing, I used to sit out there at the hot water pipe, and I used to bang my knees. Everybody's going to work at 7 in the morning with their furs freezing their buns off, and I'd be out there. We didn't have wetsuits then, right? We didn't have those. And we used to bang on our knees and legs, you know, they were turning blue, waiting for the 7th wave. Yeah, right. So now I say, Lord, thank you so much for allowing me to be here, to sit here while it was so nothing is better than a glass off. Hole in the wall gang, you know what I'm talking about. Nothing is better than a glass off. So I'd sit there and look at the little fishies swimming underneath me, and I'd take off on a wave, and every once in a while, we'd get a dolphin coming right next to me, coming right out and looking at me going, what are you doing here? You know, it was great. So I thank Huntington Beach, everybody that's been involved with this thing, and thank you so much from me being here since 1955 to being on the sidewalk where everybody can walk on top of me. God bless you. Thank you so much.
And that brings us to the category of Surf Pioneer. And actually this one is a little special for me because I was considered a stylist from Australia. And oftentimes as I began to rise up the ranks, the American magazines would be comparing me to Skip Frye. And I didn't know Skip at the time other than to see him in the magazines. And if you look at the program today and look at the center spread of a beautiful bottom turn, actually photograph taken by this gentleman over here, Dick Graham, who was the founder of Surfing Magazine. And Skip later on would become an influence that I didn't realize at the time, even though the magazines were talking about how my style resembled that from Australia, because in general down in Australia, the crew, other than midget, which I was more like the midget side, was the nat side, and that was the animal and aggressive, and I was a bit more of the smooth, stylish side, a little bit like they had compared me to midget and Skip. So in 1974, I turned up in California to go see my friend Mike Eaton down at Gordon and Smith, and in the shaping bay there is Skip Frye making a fish, and I'd never seen a fish before, and Skip was so accommodating. I was introduced by Mike Eaton, and I was looking at this board, and of course at that world contest in '72, the fish had won with Jimmy Blears and David DeWeaver, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to take a look at this, because I was a shaper, everybody forgets, and Skip showed me what was going on. I went home, and I made one of the first fishes that ever appeared in Australia, and I still ride them to this day. Of course, Skip still surfs so beautifully. Every year we get together for that Cancer Society event down in San Diego, and it's just amazing to me. I know Skip's in his 70s now, and it's guys like Skip that keep me inspired and out in the water and want to surf and surf like that. So it's my great honor to bring up the San Diego legend, Skip Frye.
What a spectacle surfing has become. So I haven't been around competitive format, or I haven't been to Huntington Beach since the 60s, and to see what has happened here, oh my goodness. And to see a city embrace the sport of surfing like this is totally incredible. And I just want to thank the city. I want to thank the mayor. I want to thank Jack and all the people that thought that I was worthy to be placed on the Hall of Fame. Well, I don't understand it. I guess if you're around long enough, it must be the barnacles growing on my legs and arms. That's got to be it. Anyhow, I didn't know much about the Walk of Fame. I heard about it. But once I found out about it, and to see the class that is accompanying me is absolutely fantastic. Bill Fury. One of my favorite surfer from this area, without a doubt. So many surfers influenced me: Phil Edwards, Mickey Dora, Fury, the Irons Brothers. The list goes on. I'm going to leave somebody out, so I'm going to stop right there. So I was always influenced by the smooth and calculated and artful surfer.
Mike Hansen.
And Mike Henson, but Bill definitely. I was influenced by him quite a bit. And then there's the women. You know, I've had a special heart in my place for women that surf. And I think that it should be 50-50 out in the water, because it brings such a better balance to the makeup of the ocean or anything, you know. I've been so surrounded with testosterone all my life that it's just good to have women in the water. I've actually took a few women under my wing and tried to help them out as far as developing the surfers. So I want to salute the women. You know, Gidget, like Peter said, she was like one of the first women.